Hi, it's Joe. Do not hire a salesperson until you've watched this video. If you are a founder and you are thinking about hiring a salesperson, there are the same mistakes that I see time and time again. In this video, I'm going to show you what the mistakes are, why they happen, why 65% and above of first founders hires, sales hires, fail, which is like insane, and how you should actually approach hiring your first salespeople so that you can finally scale and get out of sales without burning £20,000 on a rep that doesn't make it. So if that sounds interesting to you, we're going to dive in. If you're wondering who I am, my name's Joe Milnes. I've hired over 100 reps and scaled B2B sales teams from scratch for a company called Focus. We went from zero to turning over £1.2 million in a month for our sales team in less than 10 months. And I've coached over 300 founders at this point to generate over £185 million in revenue using scalable sales systems. Now, does any of this sound familiar? We're going to dive into like what happens and why so many people burn money on sales hires. What happens is this is you here. There we go. You grow your business. Growing the business. Here we go. So you might get to like 20, 50, 100K a month growing the business by being really fucking good at what you do. So you deliver well for clients and do a really good job and you're an expert in what you do. And then that means that you get network referrals. So you get nice referrals that come into your business and say, hey, Dave, you did a really good job for my other mate, Pete. Do you want to come and do this for me? And you think, brilliant. Okay, so you get like network, word of mouth and referrals from being good at what you do and being an expert. And so then you grow the business. So you go, oh, here we go. There we go. And you grow the business. There we go. Nice. Look at this. Big business. Don't know what that's doing. Okay, growing the business. And then you think, this is brilliant. I'm going to scale. So if I'm getting all of these, I've grown the business to say 500,000 or $1 million. I'm going to hire a salesperson. Let's get in this. I'm going to hire a salesperson here. Little salesperson. And he's going to come in and he's going to start growing his business as well. So he's going to go, he's going to get calls, he's going to get new customers, and then he's going to grow all this revenue here. So we've got like a bigger business, and then I just need to get another salesperson, then they'll grow the business here, and then we're on. Look at the size of the business. Easy. It's not. And that's why most people get this salesperson here who comes along. See if this sounds familiar. You get a salesperson and you think, well, I don't want to like manage him or look after him. So I'm going to get someone with experience and who's got knowledge in our industry. And people with experience or knowledge in your industry cost a lot more money than people with no experience. So they come in, they promise that they've got a black book, and they'll go and they'll start having conversations, and you'll be like, oh, what's coming in? And they're like, yeah, I've got some really good conversations. I think they're going to go ahead with it. And the deals that you're talking about suddenly appear in the pipeline for months and months. Nothing's really closing. And then after about 4 to 6 months, you're thinking, this is just not working. So you part ways and that salesperson goes in the bin. Let's put a cross. Can't put a cross yet. Goes in the bin. And then you're back to square one. And because you've neglected your new business, it's probably shrunk a little bit there. And so you're back. And then you watch this video and you're like, well, I'm thinking about hiring a salesperson, but don't want to go through that experience again. So what do I do? Fear not. I'm going to tell you why things go wrong. So what happens is we're going to walk you through like what an actual sales process is. So if you think a sales process, when we are assessing how evolved a sales process is, we split it up into 3 parts generally. One is the hook. So that is, can you start conversations with prospects who want to find out more about whether or not you can help them? So have you got a mechanism for generating traffic or leads into the business of prospects that you can close? And then the wedge is, have you got a discovery process that finds out all the stuff that you need to know to make it easier to position your product or service as the best thing for the prospect to do? Massively underrated part of the sales process. The most important part of the sales process is the wedge. So have you got a process for asking the right questions, which is discovery, and that's why it's called a wedge, because it takes a prospect from being closed and not knowing to opening up. And then the match, which is, once you know all the stuff that you need to know about the prospect, can you close them? I.e., do you have proposals, demos, sales assets, and the ability to present the benefits of your solution to a point where the prospect says, yes, that makes sense. Let's go with that. And what happens is, when you've grown a business through networking, word of mouth, and referrals, you've got mechanisms coming in. So you've got prospects coming in, so you can generate opportunities because you're good at what you do. But as soon as you introduce someone else into the business, the referrals aren't enough for you and the salesperson here. So by hiring a salesperson, even if they've got experience, they need to have a mechanism to generate conversations. Now, if you're expecting them to be a 360 rep, by 360 degree, I mean they will generate opportunities and then close them. That's fine, but have you considered how they're going to get leads? Like, what data are they getting it from? What channels are they going to use? What are you spending on technology to enable them to be able to do that? Are they actually any good? Are they proven at being able to generate opportunities? Because closing, i.e. account management and closing a deal, and generating conversations are two fundamentally and psychologically different skill sets. So if you're looking for a salesperson to do both, unless you're going to give them a big helping hand over here, what you're effectively looking for is a unicorn. It's very, very difficult to find good 360 degree reps. So that's one of the challenges. The next is that the salesperson isn't you. So you have a huge amount of trust and credibility. And also you've been dealing with people who know you because they come through network, word of mouth, and referrals. And that means that the trust and credibility is really high because they are known to you. And better than that, they have an active need for your product or service. So they have high trust and credibility and an active need, which is two of the things that are most important to converting sales quickly. When you go and get a salesperson, they're going outbound. So when they're tapping people on the shoulder, those people haven't necessarily got an active need. They might have a problem or a symptom of a problem that you can help with, which is brilliant, and you can work with that, but they haven't got an active need. And they aren't aware of what the problem, they're not searching for a solution, which means it's exponentially harder to sign those customers than it is to sign a network, word of mouth, and referrals. In addition to that, they haven't got the advantage of being you and being the authority, so it's more difficult. So you need more assets and more help to be able to help that salesperson to close the deals in the absence of an active need and the absence of being you. Hope you're following this. So that's another reason why it's more difficult and why this salesperson is under pressure. It's going to be difficult. Because they haven't got an active need. So you need to develop, how do you solve that, Joe? You need to develop a front-end offer. What's this? This is going to be the front-end offer. Here we go. This front-end offer is an offer that you can sell to get to cold traffic, which will allow you to start trading with customers profitably and generate conversations. It'll make it easier to generate conversations, and it'll make it easier to close the customer as well, because you have a lower ticket front end offer, which is a no-brainer, risk reversed if possible. um, proof of concept, however you want to trial it, but it's a risk. You're lowering the perceived risk of trading and doing business with you, and allowing the salesperson to go to market with that to lower the friction between the prospect not knowing you, not having you to deal with in terms of the trust and credibility, and then going through that. So I hope that makes sense. So the biggest mistakes that people make are assuming that because you've grown through network, word of mouth and referrals, you assume that a salesperson is going to come in and just be able to magically generate conversations. But they aren't. They need data, they need a front end offer, and they need you to invest in ads or leads or some mechanism to get them leads and get them talking to prospects. Then after that, what they haven't got is the prospect hasn't got an active need and they haven't got trust and credibility. So they need a process to be able to follow that maximizes the chances of the prospect coming into the funnel and then converting into a customer. If you haven't got this process, you can't rely on the salesperson to bring theirs. Because one, the knowledge lives and dies with the salesperson, so when they inevitably mess up and leave, you're left with nothing to show for it. And secondly, if you haven't got a sales process, so if you haven't got a mechanism for asking the questions and know that these are the right questions to ask, and you haven't got the ability to close those customers, then you don't know how the salesperson is doing until 4 months down the line, when all you know is that they've not closed a business. What you should be able to do is understand that if you get 10 leads here, don't know why that's so small. If you get 10 conversations over here, you should know that if the sales is performing, 5 of those will go to quote/proposal stage. Okay, and you know that 2 of those should close. And you'll know that if less than 10 conversations are being, if you know that 10 conversations are turning into less than 5, that it's either a qualification or discovery issue. So you know where to focus. You look at the discovery calls that are happening and seeing, are they qualified? Would I offer my service to them? And if not, what can I do to make sure that I'm speaking to more people who are more suitable to buy? And if they are, or their questions aren't being asked in the right way and the salesperson's not asking the questions or building enough of a business case in that discovery to progress to the next stage. Or more likely, they're just talking at the prospect and selling in that first meeting rather than talking through the discovery. And then if less than 2 are closing, you know that something's going wrong in terms of either the discovery isn't giving you the information that you need, or the sales assets are, or the demo are being conducted. And again, it's probably that they're just vomiting features together. But the key is that you need to be able to take, as a business owner, an objective view on each part of this sales process and understand the metrics which the salesperson is coming through. Because otherwise, you're not going to be able to understand whether that salesperson's working out until it's way too late. And that will be, if you think about an average deal cycle for B2B now is about 2.5 months. So if you allow them a month to ramp up, it's like 3 to 4 months before you even have a clue on whether they're working or not. Like, it just makes it impossible. And by 4 months in, if you're trying to make a decision on whether a deal, you've got the sunken cost of all the salary that you put in and the time and the effort and the resource to training them. And then you're thinking, are they going to work out? I don't know. They're saying that they've got deals coming in. It's horrible. So what you can take from this is hopefully you understand the challenges. Just because you've been able to grow the business, being good at what you do, you can't automatically get a salesperson just in off the bat. So instead, you need to design the sales process here. You need to understand what metrics they are associated with the successful sales process. You need to understand how the meetings are going to be generated. And ideally, you want to have a good front end offer that you can sell to traffic that doesn't have a compelling need or a known need to invest in your product or service, and doesn't have the trust and credibility that is baked in from someone that comes into your network. So you need all of those things in place before you even think or consider about hiring a salesperson. Luckily, if you're wondering, how do I do that, Joe? Then you can work with us to do it, and we'll actually map all of this out for you. We'll tell you all of the assets that you need to create. We'll tell you what psychological profile and experience level of the salesperson you need, what channels you should be considering for your outreach. We'll do that for a quid. Just a quid. Why do we do it for a quid? Because I know that once you work with us, you'll think, wow, Joe, we've got a lot more chance of getting a salesperson who's the right person with the right process and getting him generating revenue in much less time if we work with you than if we don't. So you can take this pound, but then it also takes some money as well, which is why we're doing it. I'm not building a business on a pound. Hopefully you found that helpful. And if you have had a salesperson who's not worked out before, then hopefully that will shine a light on why it is. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Also, my calendar's in the comments. You can book a call with me if you want this mapped out for your business. We only ask is that you're over £20,000 in revenue and ready to invest in the salesperson or a traffic source or both. And then I will see you in the next video. Speak to you soon.